I'm going to state something that I believe you know is true. In fact, I think you'd be hard pressed to convince me that it's not true. We don't want it to be true. We don't like that it is true. But it is true. The best and the worst of humanity is seen in the face of leadership. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and the best and worst of humanity is seen in the face of leadership. We know this because we can look back at world leaders for as long as there have been humans. From the Canaanites till today, we have leaders who have found the ability to exert force, to utilize their influence, to manipulate people, to gain what they want in this world, to get wealth, to maintain control, to abuse, to systematically and systemically destroy other people. We've seen it all across humanity. And you would think that that would be only when you've reached the power of world dominance, when you've reached the place where you are so powerful that nobody can stand in your way, then and only then would you begin to wield your influence like a vice, to clamp down on people that you disagree with, to elevate the ones who served you well, to destroy those who stand in your way. That it would take a whole lot of force to be able to do that, but we know that that's not true. And we know that's not true because, well, if we have siblings, we've experienced leadership influence manipulating, cajoling, and controlling our relationships. The worst of humanity is seen in the face of leadership. Now, we may not always call it leadership, and I think that's part of the challenge. We see that there are people who manipulate, who lie, who cheat the system to get their way, to get control, to get everybody to go along with them and their world. And once they do, they kind of keep that gain. But we don't always see them as leaders because maybe we see them as siblings. We see them as the neighbor who throws their trash in the yard or intentionally rolls the can to the curb and leaves the lid open, knowing that somebody on a bicycle is going to kick it over, or the wind is going to blow it over, or at a minimum, blow all the loose stuff out of the top of the trash can they didn't bother to put in a bag, and it will be all over the neighborhood. See, we don't see those people as leaders because they don't hold a title of leader. We don't look at them and think, wow, you're a leader in the community. But let me ask you the question just based on John Maxwell's input. Leadership is what? Influence. Nothing more and nothing less. Now, if that's the case and the statement is true, then what we know is the fact that they've influenced your day makes them a leader. If you got up on Monday morning and you walked to the curb to put your own cans out and you realized your neighbor's can was already laying over and trash was spilling over into your yard, you probably went to work in a bad mood after you picked it all up, or fussed at them, or just fussed and did nothing about it. The truth is, their garbage in your life is influence. And their garbage in your life that is influence, it changes the way you deal with life. Now, again, we don't look at the next door neighbor with the garbage in our yard and think, leader! But they're influencing the decisions that you're making. Whether you pick up the trash or you don't have time to. Whether you call the HOA or you don't even bother. Whether you call the police and say this yo-yo's littering in my yard, or you forget about it and hope next time they'll do better. Whatever your reaction is, they're influencing your behavior. They do the same thing when driving. This little town we just moved to, a traffic jam is 11 cars at the stop sign. Oh my gosh, this could take forever. It's a four-way stop. How long could it possibly take? But they haven't seen traffic like Big D in Dallas or Fort Worth on a bad Friday afternoon trying to get home from work. But every one of those drivers, the one who weaves in and out of traffic at 110 miles an hour, the motorcycle splitting down the lane, the yay-hoo doesn't paying any attention, playing on his cell phone or his wireless device and slams on his brakes and slides off to the shoulder because he nearly hit the car in front of him. Every one of them are influencing decisions you're making in your life, and those influencers are leaders. Now, we can take that one step further and realize there are a whole lot of people who proudly wear the label influencer. Yeah, they basically want it on a name tag because it means they're going to have some revenue from all the videos that are shared. They're going to have some notoriety from everybody watching them and maybe even make some ad money or send you to an OnlyFans. But really what they want to know is that you're paying attention to them. They love the badge of influencer. Now, do they love the badge of influencer because they like to influence people, or do they love the badge of influencer because it leads to revenue? See, now we're talking about motives, and that's a whole different thing, but let's get back to the original statement. We see the very best and the very worst of humanity in the face of leadership. People who choose to influence, people who choose to have that relationship where their decision-making alters your decision-making, where what they speak, what they think, what they say modifies how you speak and think and say, and maybe even what you do. They influence the words that you choose and the ones you intentionally avoid. They might influence the car that you buy and the one that you believe is a piece of junk, even though you've never driven one, you just know the brand name. They influence where you might go to school, go to college, get an advanced degree, or intentionally avoid because I don't need that on my resume. Influencers. They influence the clothes you buy, the yoga pants you wear, what you wear to the gym or don't. Influencers do all of that. And we see the best and the worst of humanity in the face of leadership. Anyone with influence is a leader. Have you ever had a little kid ask you for something that wasn't your kid? And you don't want to break their heart, but unless you're just a cruel, heartless kind of a person, you do whatever you can to give them what they want, unless their parents say don't do that, or you know that it's going to harm them. If they say, hey, run into traffic with me, you're not going to be inclined to do that. But if they say, hey, can I have that lollipop? Unless their parents are telling you don't do that, or you know that that lollipop is something that they don't think it is, you're going to give them the sucker because you're a sucker. And in that moment, that little kid has become a leader, an influencer, someone with the ability to modify what you think, what you speak, what you say, and what you do. A leader. They don't have a name badge that says leader. They don't have a title on their business card that says president or CEO or CMO or chief influencer or anything like that. They're just people who figured out how to get their way in life. It starts early. We have 10 who call us Lolly and Poppy. We have 4 that we've raised from the very beginning. And I can tell you, by the time they're 6 or 7 months old, they know that a certain sound makes you respond. By the time they're 3 or 4, most parents can recognize sometimes that sound is, well, it's fake. It's really manipulation. It's really just about them getting their way, getting you to do what they want you to do, influencing your behavior, how you think, how you speak, what you say, and what you do. Yeah, toddlers do it. It's natural. To think then that we outgrow that in elementary school or middle school or high school or college, in dating relationships, in work relationships, at the stop sign, walking across the street, to think that we've abandoned all of that that is so natural for us to have the desire to get our own way. It's naturally in us to have that desire and think, I'll just get over it. Worst